Well, hey there. My name is J.R. Ball, and I'm the author of Wild Year, published by City Limits. Wild Year is part coffee table book, part adventure journal. It tells the true story of how I took a crappy job that kept me from my family through most of 2019 and turned that into the perfect alibi to explore dozens of national parks from coast to coast. It was a life-changing adventure that really changed me. But I'm not here to talk about the book today. I'm here to play a game. So the good folks over at City Limits have some questions they'd like me to answer. I have a makeshift fishbowl here. It's a national park puzzle container. And without further ado, let's get started. We'll get to know each other and have some fun. All right, first question. What was my favorite national park that I visited? Hands down, Olympic National Park in Washington State. If you've ever been there, you know how incredible it is, and if you've never been, it's like nowhere else. You've got temperate rainforests, primitive beaches, glaciated mountains, all within a national park larger than the state of Rhode Island. Hands down, my favorite park, and it was really a place that changed my life. Is there a specific national park I would like to spend more time at? Well, that's a great question. Yeah, Olympic National Park had such a big impact on me that my family and I are actually in the process of moving to a little town outside the park's boundary. So hopefully we will get to spend a lot more time at my favorite national park. Next question. What was the scariest moment from my adventure? I can think of a few that probably caused me to lose what remaining hair I have left, but the most notable had to be running into the backside of a very big black bear in Kings Canyon National Park. I was by myself, it was the end of the day, and before I knew it, I was face to face with this guy and probably could have used a change of pants afterwards. Okay, no whammies, no whammies. Next question. What is my favorite activity to do when hiking? That's easy. Just be in the moment. We spend most of our lives in offices and cubicles. The chance to get outside and to reconnect with nature is such an incredible experience. That's what I would try to do, was just soak it all in, take it all in, and be in the moment as much as I could. Okay, next question. Are there any essentials I would take with me when hiking? Yeah, there were a few, and I have props. So the first is water. Probably seems super obvious, and more than being a plug for my favorite outdoor brand, it's a reminder that you'll always need more water than you think you will. So these bottles are great. You fill them up, you toss them in your bag, you'll be glad you brought them. Secondly, a first aid kit. I'm klutzy around the house. These little packs have everything you need in them, so throw them in your bag and forget about it. And if you're going to be in Yellowstone, North Cascades, Glacier National Park, or any national park in Alaska, you are in grizzly country. So 2 essentials, bear spray and a bear bell. The spray is more effective than a firearm, and the little bell goes on your backpack and it lets bears know you're coming, and that way you don't sneak up on a mama bear and her cubs, which could be a disastrous encounter. All right, let's see what's next. Are there any books I packed with me on my journey? There was one, and it's behind me. It's this guy, the Sierra Club Wilderness Handbook. This was published in 1967, but most of the information is applicable today. How to build a fire, how to tend a wound. It's a light little book, a little good wilderness guide, and this little buddy went with me everywhere I went. What are some must-read titles that I'd recommend? 2 of my favorites are Annapurna by Maurice Herzog. So the backstory on this, years before Sir Edmund Hillary and Tenzing Norgay set foot on the top of Mount Everest, Herzog and a team led an expedition to the top of Annapurna, which is a much more challenging mountain in the Himalayan range. It was also the first ascent of an 8,000-meter peak by human beings. So besides having a colorful cast of characters and a great story, it's also the book that inspired Ed Viesturs into mountaineering, and Ed Viesturs is the first American to summit 14 of the world's highest peaks, all without supplemental oxygen. If it's good enough for Ed Viesters, it's good enough for us. The next book is just a light beach read. It is the story of Teddy Roosevelt's life by H.W. Brands. It's called T.R. The Last Romantic. And if you're like me and a fan of the National Park System, you probably owe a lot to this guy. So, yeah, those are two great books you can't go wrong with. Oh, let's see what's up next. Who should everyone be following right now? I'll tell you what, the National Park System has dedicated social media accounts for all of their parks. So you can pretty much pick your favorite park, follow that account. In addition to stunning photography, they're also going to have information on park hours, weather conditions, pretty much anything that you need to know about that park. So pick your favorite park, follow that account. Did I have any writing rituals while I was journaling and writing my essays in the wild? So that's actually an important facet of Wild Year. The story itself is all told in real time, on location. I would bring a travel journal with me, and if I had any rituals, really I would just try to shorthand things as much as I could. My memory is spotty at best, so I would try to jot down highlights from a park or from a hike, from a camping trip, put it in there, and then when I get back to the tent or back to the hotel, if I was on the road, that's when I would really do kind of the brain dump and try to record everything I could. So if you're like me and maybe your memory's not what it used to be, take short little notes, make sure you don't forget anything, then you get back and you do your deep dive. Okay, cool. What camera did I use to shoot my photographs with? I had one of those big full-frame bulky cameras with a obnoxious lens on it. I took that pretty much everywhere, but it could be a pain to lug around. It was in my pack. It was pretty heavy. So more often than not, the first camera that I went to was just the camera on my iPhone. If you can frame a picture in your mind, it really doesn't matter what you're shooting it with. At least that's my belief. Let's see what's next. What is my favorite coffee table book? Well, that distinction goes to this guy. This is Into the American West by Richard Avedon. If you're not familiar with Avedon's work, he was one of the preeminent portrait photographers in the 20th century. He was commissioned by the Ammon Carter Museum in Fort Worth, Texas, to do a 3-year project photographing men and women throughout the American West. It's a really incredible book. It's getting harder to find, so if you happen to come across a copy, don't hesitate. Definitely pick one up. Do you need any essentials to get through the writing process? 2 things that I find always help. Really good bourbon. That way, right? Exactly. And then the second would be an even better story editor. I'm fortunate that I have good bourbon, but an even better story editor in my wife. She helped me really every step of the way of putting this book together. Sometimes, you're kind of writing and you're in a bubble. It's so valuable to have someone whose opinion you trust and value to be able to bounce ideas off of. And she doesn't really like bourbon, so more for me. Name a photographer whose work I admire. So there's a guy by the name of Wright Morris. He's not a household name, but he was a photographer who explored the Great Plains through the 40s, 50s, and 60s, through the 80s. Really talented photographer. I've got his book right here. Here he is. Looks like someone I could be related to. Some of his images there. But in addition to being a talented photographer, he was also a novelist and a prolific writer. And for someone like myself, who's written a narrative-driven coffee table book, he really encapsulates those well-rounded creative qualities that I respect and admire. And I just love his work. If you have a chance and you can find his book, Distinctly American, check it out. I think you'd enjoy it. Okay. If I could describe my trip in 3 words, what would it be? Transformative. I was just another working stiff until I embarked on this incredible adventure that took me from coast to coast, where I was able to reconnect with nature and reprioritize my life. So it was transformational. It changed me to my core. I would say exhaustive. Through the course of 2019, I hit 48 states, 32 national parks, national forests, monuments, you name it, from coast to coast, so I was really lucky to see everything from the Atlantic to Pacific. And then lastly, personal. I was on my own through most of it, through nearly all of it, and it gave me a chance to think about my life and think about my priorities and kind of, retool the kind of person that I wanted to be and the kind of life that I wanted to live, and the kind of experiences that I wanted to give my family. So transformative, exhaustive, personal. Also expensive. I'm still paying for a lot of it. Let's see what's up. Who are my favorite artists? My top three would be Kehinde Wiley, Georgia Mills Jessup, and Edward Hopper. If you're not familiar with their work, Google their names, take a look at their portfolios, and I think you'll be pretty impressed. Okay, next question. Who would you like to play? Who would you like to play you in a movie adaptation of Wild Year? My favorite actor of all time is Gene Hackman. I think he's 90, so he might be busy. Pedro Pascal from The Mandalorian. He doesn't have to wear the helmet if he doesn't want to. He's a great actor. And Tessa Thompson. They could go in a whole different direction. She's a total badass. So, yeah, any of those would be great. Do I have a favorite photo from my journey? I sure do, and believe it or not, I happen to have it framed right here. So this is Mount Baker. It is in Washington State. Trying to get it all in frame there for you. I took this picture while hiking up Mount Winchester, which is just north of North Cascades National Park. The mountain itself is only 2 miles south of the Canadian border. But I love the image. I love the memory of that whole day, the whole hike. I was there, like most of my hikes, I was there by myself. It was just very peaceful, very serene, and that photo hangs up in my home office here. Every day that I look at it makes me feel good. So that's my favorite. All right. Next up, who would be my dream hiking partner? There's a couple names that come to mind. Reinhold Messner, Jimmy Chin, Conrad Anker, Ed Viesters. But if there was only one person to go and have a great outdoor adventure with, it would be my dad, because we've never had that experience. We've been on a handful of trips and adventures together, but never anything in the great outdoors. So, yeah, hands down, it would have to be my dad. Coffee or tea? What is tea? What are you most excited about in this publishing process? Just the newness of it. I'm a first-time author. I've never done this before. So it's all new. It's all exciting. And I'm just very thankful and grateful and humbled to be going through this experience. So I'm just looking forward to everything. Best hiking boot I can recommend. So pretty much throughout my whole journey, I wore a pair of Danner Mountain Light 2s. You can go to Danner's website. They're made in Portland, Oregon. They're an incredible hiking boot. Mine are actually getting resold. So as a backup, I have an equally incredible pair of Red Wing Sawmills. Super grippy bottom, all the hiking features you want. But it's a great question because you really can't discount the importance of a good pair of boots on the trail. They're not always cheap, but they definitely pay for themselves. Do I have a favorite memory from my journey? I sure do. I was able to take my son with me to the Grand Canyon, which seems like the quintessential father-son trip. But like I had said, 99% of my hikes and adventures were solo endeavors. To be able to take my son with me on this one trip was really incredible. We got to explore the desert together and, make some memories that hopefully will last him the rest of his life. So that was my favorite memory from the whole thing. We're getting pretty low here. Let's see. Whose work has influenced me the most? As a writer, I think I've been very influenced by Cormac McCarthy. He has a very unique way of crafting a narrative and telling a story. I think someone who doesn't take themselves too seriously and is an incredibly talented humorist is Amy Sedaris. And as far as photography, I mentioned Richard Avedon, Wright Morris, but also Elliot Erwitt is a photographer that has influenced me exponentially. Yeah, I would say those are my big influences. What message am I hoping to tell through my photos? That's a great question. I think we've all grown very disconnected from nature. We live in cities and suburbs, and we're just not in harmony with the natural world anymore. For me, reconnecting with the wilderness and seeking peace in wild spaces brought not only an incredible stillness and peacefulness to my life, but it also helped me reprioritize what was important and what's really not. If you have the opportunity to disconnect from modern society, go off grid for a bit, and reconnect with the wild, I really think it pays dividends, and it might impact your life in a positive way that you can't even anticipate at this moment. So turn off the video, put a mask on, and go far off the grid, and might benefit your life. All right, that's it. That's our last one. Let's see. Is there any subject matter or place that I've yet to photograph that I want to pursue? Just more of it. I've been trying to do the right thing and self-isolate during the pandemic. I really haven't left the house very much since March. So I'm ready to get back out there. I miss being in nature. I see now what a huge impact being in the wild and reconnecting to the natural world had on my life. So I just want more of it. I can't wait to get back out and explore. And it would be a dream to run into someone watching this video who could say, you know, read your book, it impacted me, and it compelled me to go explore the outdoors. That would be incredible. But even if we never meet, go see it for yourself. Get out there once it's safe, and reconnect with the wild. And I think it will impact you in all the great ways that it impacted me.